Hi, welcome to Happy Tales. I'm Cheryl Rosenthal, Communications and Education Coordinator here at the Oshkosh Area Humane Society.
And I'm Joni Geiger, the Executive Director.
And Joni, today our show is going to be all about Meet the Staff. And we're going to meet some of our staff members and learn about the job that they do here,
Right.
and the training that they've had,
Right.
and how long that they've been here.
Sure.
I think a lot of times people don't understand how much information and knowledge it takes to run an animal shelter. And when people come into the shelter and we're trying to give behavioral information or offer information or even making animal matches for people's lifestyles, this isn't something that our staff just makes up. We're not just, oh, well, you know, I think this would be good. We're not guessing at it. This is information that our staff has actually attended several workshops and seminars regarding. I mean, we've studied under animal behaviorists all across the United States. Our staff has gone to euthanasia seminars. We've gone to seminars dealing with how to interact with the public, how to promote our business, how to do fundraising, how to budget. I mean, it's countless, the amount of information. Just like any other business, we have to have that knowledge. And then we turn around and share that knowledge with the community. So that, I guess what I'm trying to say is we have training and education that gives us credibility.
Sure. And you hit the nail on the head. This is a business, Cheryl. And in order to succeed in the business, and you obviously have to know what you're doing. And that includes working with these animals and through experience, but also continuing education. And so I think you're right. I think sometimes the public doesn't necessarily see us as the experts, but the reality is we are. We're constantly training. We're constantly working towards other things. We're learning about behavior, and we're learning about how to manage our business, so to speak. And so all of our people, you know, from the cleaning person up, gets the proper training that they need to do their job as the best way they possibly can. And ultimately, that helps the animals, it helps our community, and it's just the only way to do it. So it's very, very important. For instance, let's talk about you. Your title, now say your title again, say it slow.
Communications and Education Coordinator.
Right. So let's talk about that. What does that mean?
Oh, it means I do a lot of talking, which most people know I already do. Really, when I started here, I started out as a volunteer,
Right.
and then I came on board. You dangled fundraising. You would pay me to do fundraising, but then you dangled the carrot of education.
Right.
And that was really important to me because one of the reasons why I came to work for the Humane Society is I wanted the opportunity to teach children and adults respect for animals.
Right.
And I think that it's something that's missing in our society, and that was really important to me to be able to convey that. And children get it, that animals cannot take care of themselves. And so the education carrot that you dangled for me really brought me on board. And so when you're doing education, when you're doing fundraising, you have to be good at communication.
Sure.
And that communication part of my job is doing our website, writing articles for the newspaper, doing Happy Tales, going to area businesses and talking about the Humane Society, going into area schools. You know, Joni, one of the first years that I was on board with the Humane Society, I spoke with over 5,000 well, probably between 3,000 and 4,000 school-age children.
Wow.
That first year.
Wow.
I think
That's a lot of kids.
I think
and that's a lot of impact.
I think my dog and I hit every Cub Scout, every Girl Scout, and every grade school
Sure.
in the city of Oshkosh those first couple of years. It was just, you know, amazing.
Yeah.
And the reaction to that. So, but in addition to that, I also do the cat consultations for the Humane Society, and what that means is when somebody's having a behavioral issue with their pet, I try to help them solve that.
Sure.
And it's a communications thing. Having empathy for the person on the other end of the phone and helping them solve that problem realistically. And sometimes we don't always have the right answer, but we can put people in touch with that. And as far as, what credentials do I have to do these things, I have had a love for animals since I could walk. And if you give me a magazine or a book or a movie or a seminar or a workshop, I'm going to go to it. And that's what I've done all my life. I've kind of absorbed everything. I just take it all in. And I've had the privilege of studying with people like Patricia McConnell, who is an animal behaviorist in Madison, Wisconsin, Sue Sternberg, our Meet Your Match program here is through Emily Weiss, and I've gone to a seminar where she was one of the guest speakers. I've gone to educational programs where it talks about how to talk with children, the importance of being realizing when you're going into area schools that you may be encountering children that are victims of domestic violence or abuse, and to be aware, how do you handle those types of situations. And so my 15 years here has been just a whirlwind of give and take. I mean, I've taken on the information, and I'm hoping that I'm giving that information back to the community. And
well,
that's really
there's no
important.
question, Cheryl, that this is really a labor of love for you. I mean, you get very excited when you
Yeah,
talk
I get a
about,
little compassionate, don't I?
Well, you get very excited when you talk about education, because it really was, and I have to admit, all the years that I've known you, that is the one thing that you really, really are passionate about, is you want to share this information. You want to give people the knowledge and the tools they need to do the right thing by their animals and to learn that process. So there's no question that it's just been...
And one of the things that I have found, and I tell this to the children when I meet with them, in my particular job, you have to love two things. I love animals, but I also love people.
Right.
And the two,
I totally agree
it works
with that.
for me.
Totally agree. You can't, we get a lot of people who say, I love animals, but I'm not necessarily crazy about people. It doesn't work, really doesn't work for people. So you have to have a true compassion for everyone in this kind of business.
Life's funny. I never thought I'd end up at a shelter. But then again, neither did you. Life's funny.
Well, I kind of like being in this position. I get to interview my boss. Joni, I know that you have been a really big part of the Oshkosh Area Humane Society from its beginnings. In fact, you are the beginning of the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. I remember when I was a newlywed, you were a manager at the Century Food Store.
I was, yes.
And I know that you wrote a letter to the editor and in concern about the animals at the Humane Society. And where did it all go from there, and why are you still here?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where, just briefly, I had visited the shelter. We'd always, when we were kids, we got our dogs from the shelter, but, I hadn't been there for a long time as an adult, and so I went over there. And frankly, I was quite surprised at the condition, and I thought it was something that we as a community needed to improve and do better at, and so I wrote a letter to the editor, and interestingly enough, there was a lot of people that felt the same as I did, and then we started a group, and we became a nonprofit group that just supported the shelter when it was run by the city. Well, as it turned out, the city decided that we were doing a pretty good job, and so they asked us to take over, and so that's kind of where this all came from. And as you said, I was working for a grocery store at the time, and boy, I tell you, it was a passion of mine. I had to do it. It was a calling. That really, truly was a calling for me. So when our group said, well, would you consider, leading? And I said, absolutely, and that's kind of where it all started from.
And what has surprised you the most about your job?
The surprises over the years, Cheryl, has just been tremendous. I think you go in naively thinking that you're going to help all the animals and everyone, and that was my intent, but then almost right from the get-go I realized that you can try to help animals, but you have to help people too. People are part of the equation, and you can't do one without the other. Right. And so the truth is that this is this is not just about animals. This is about people. This is about our community. And, you know, they just kind of go hand in hand. And so this is one thing that as the executive director that I always felt strongly about, and that was, you know, just giving people good customer service, being courteous, being professional, and always taking care of the animals.
What's the favorite part of your job?
You know, I still get a thrill, you know, because I'm doing so much of the administrative part of it now. I still get a thrill out of, you know, holding kitties, petting dogs, going for a walk, keeping that, you know, basic, you know, kind of in touch with the animals really is my favorite part of the job.
Our first guest with us this morning is Rhonda. And Rhonda, tell us what your job title is.
I am the Public Operations Manager.
And that means?
That means that I oversee most of the adoption area, kind of the front end of the shelter, where most of the potential adopters or donors come through the front door. That's my area.
Okay, so you're in charge of all of those staff people
Right.
underneath you. And how long have you worked at the Humane Society?
This year will be my 15th year here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you start out doing? You
I-
didn't start out as a
No,
manager,
no.
did you?
I started out as a kennel cleaner / dog walker, and I cleaned cat areas too. So basically, I just started out in a cleaning position.
And
Yeah, and I must tell you, Rhonda was just, she was a teenager when she
Yep.
actually started working
grew
for
up
us.
here.
So, yeah, she kind of did grow up here. So, you know, she came up the ranks. There's no question about
Okay.
it.
And then after cleaner, you advanced to?
Oh man, I think I was diet and supply coordinator for a while. There's been so many changes over the years from there to here. You know, it's hard to remember every hat I've worn, but probably just about everyone here, every job here, I've probably had a little bit to do with it.
Okay. So you have a really good understanding when being a manager now, you know what the job entails and what it takes to do that
Yes,
job.
definitely.
And
It's a
if
lot.
need be, you can do that job.
I think so. I hope so. Yeah, yeah.
All right. And what kind of training have you had to?
Well, lots. I mean, this kind of a job, obviously on the hands training is more beneficial, but I've done a lot of seminars and conferences. I just got back from one. I'm a certified humane officer. I'm a certified euthanasia technician. Pretty much any training that's out there, if we were able to attend, we did, and I've learned a lot about
We'll
behavior.
talk about
and-
some of those trainings, Rhonda. I mean, you know, you've done some behavioral training with the animals,
Yep.
and what does that entail?
Lots of working with area trainers and behaviorists just to kind of brush up on your skills. Lots of seminars with some of the foremost trainers, even in the world. Countless workshops on just, you know, working on improving your skills, always continuing your education, and just, I mean, broad spectrum, behavior, training, pretty much everything you can think of. I've done a little bit
People
of training on
skills,
it.
service
People
skills, yeah.
customer service, management.
Okay.
Yeah,
What-
over 15 years, I would imagine there's a
Yeah,
lot of training
it's a
involved.
lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of learning body language and,
Right.
and keeping up with the changes because you know I don't think people understand that things change. The way we train dogs change, our society changes, our activities. You know, people are busier now than we don't have very many stay-at-home
Right.
moms. So all those things have to fit, and trying to get more people coming into the shelter to adopt those types of things. So
And
keeping up
sheltering
with that.
changes, just the way humane societies work changes, so you have to
Well,
keep
look at
abreast of that.
how the building looked at Dempsey Trail
Right.
compared to how we house
Sure.
the animals here on Shelter Court. So what, if anything, has surprised you most about your job?
That's tough. I would say probably the difficulty, because a lot of people come in here and they assume, oh, you get to work with animals and it must be so happy. And there's a lot of, hard parts to it too. It's hard. You get attached. It's very emotional. You're working with a lot of different kinds of people, and it can be really hard emotionally, and it can be really hard physically too. And I don't think people know that. So
Right.
that's probably the
So it can be
most
very
surprising.
draining. So when,
oh
you,
yeah.
when you're done at the end of the day, you're literally
You're
all
literally,
done.
yeah, you're spent, because it's a lot, emotionally and physically, and all that together.
Days go fast, though, don't they?
They do. They do. They do.
just
yeah,
fly by.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks, Rhonda. That's really, appreciate you being here today, and I know
Sure.
you're busy this morning, so.
Yes, yes.
I'll let you get back to work.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.